If I had gay sex with one of my roommates, how would that make you feel?
People debate over the importance of work-life balance, and I must say that renting rooms out in my home has been the most anti-work-life thing I've done in a while. If you're new to my channel, I've had an assortment of experiences in this area. I've shared my home with 6 other people over the past 18 months, 4 of which were friends from Discord, and 2 were complete strangers I found through local forums. The longest being here for nearly 10 months now, while the shortest lasted just 2 weeks. There seems to be a huge spectrum of how this goes for people, from, oh yeah, my roommates contribute so much more than just money in my life, to, well, this. Or maybe this. I guess it could always be worse. But regardless, we can kiss privacy and comfort goodbye when we turn our presumed safe space into a self-managed small business in an effort to make a buck. In my opinion, there's a few primary problems, even if your tenant is a genuinely good person with good intentions. Most people don't want to rent out a room. They do it because they have to, which attracts greater desperation.
What if it was with one of your roommates?
What do you mean, how would it make me feel? What's that? What kind of question is that?
Being an independent landlord living inside the house and not some offsite company means more flexibility and personability, which can benefit the tenant. Say if they're going to be late on rent or adopt a new pet or something. It's not like you're sitting in your office or in your own home going, oh, my tenant hasn't paid rent for the property I own. Let me send them a text and give them a deadline to pay, plus late fees, before I initiate an eviction. No, in reality, you'll have just woken up, making breakfast in your own kitchen, maybe in your underwear, trying to figure out your day or whatever's gonna happen. Then your tenant comes in the kitchen with you and is like, hey, so yeah, I don't have rent, but I promise to get it to you as soon as possible if that's okay. And okay, sure, I've given a hard line, no, you have to pay me by X or you have to leave. In this exact situation in my kitchen, but I've also given additional leniency in this same scenario. Say if I'm not in the mood for a tense conversation about a person's housing while I'm trying to get ready to leave the house and start my own day or whatever. Or say I'm cleaning up after dinner and I just want to go to bed. I don't really feel like having to have a confrontational conversation about whether someone's about to lose their housing. And it's not just the moral or social side that's difficult. The laws that protect tenants, at least in North Carolina, see a room in your house as much of a rental unit as an apartment or an entire home. So even if you want someone out, it doesn't mean they actually have to leave. Even if you're on the absolute shortest lease possible, you give them 7 days or 30 days notice and they don't leave, you legally can't, quote, make them leave until you've gone through an entire lawsuit. Everything around renting out rooms is just kind of awkward. Actually, this is how I would summarize the entire room rental experience over the past 2 years in one word. Everything is subject to being very awkward. You're sharing a pretty intimate space with someone who you're doing nothing more than a business transaction with. Unless, of course, you actually do become friends with your tenants over time. I personally have never befriended a tenant who wasn't already a friend from the beginning. And while we're friendly with each other, we don't involve ourselves in one another's lives, aside from occasionally eating together or hanging out in the living room, or I'll be working on my laptop in the kitchen and the roommates are, I don't know, on their phones watching TV.
When you fill a room with a roommate, the pros are you're getting better utilization out of your house, basically paying less for your mortgage. I only pay basically a third of my mortgage right now.
Oh, you pay the minority of it. Yeah, so a third of mine is covered by roommates, so I pay the majority, but it makes a difference. Yeah. So going in, before you bought a house, you knew you wanted roommates.
I specifically wouldn't even look at houses that had less than 3 bedrooms because I wanted to have roommates. The cons, which I'm not gonna say super loud because my roommate's right outside, is that you're not there's some common areas where you're gonna need to deal with other people sometimes. There's times I'm downstairs watching a movie with my girlfriend and Ben comes down and makes food for 45 minutes while also watching the movie that we have on from the kitchen. So I can tell he's moving slower when he's making food because he's distracted by our movie and all the lights are on and it's just totally throwing the vibe off. It's just something you gotta deal with when you have roommates.
But even sharing the table for a meal is where I quickly realized a bizarre dynamic that I've never experienced before. Let's say you're splitting a lease with a friend for an apartment, or you're buying a home with your significant other. You're likely in similar places in life, at least financially. You may have similar budgets and lifestyles and game plans, at least as you go into the whole like living experience with them. But like I mentioned, those who have the ability to rent a room out and those renting the rooms are rarely similar. Unless you're subletting something, the landlord is going to be a homeowner while the tenant is in search for basically the cheapest housing possible. So in my case, this has led to a sometimes just awkward and obvious financial gap. While I first rented rooms in my house because I seriously needed money fast, I've been able to get to a financially better and better position month over month since last year, largely thanks to renting out rooms and using that cash to help myself. I've paid debt, I've made fun purchases, I've gone on a couple trips, and I like to order fast food. But for my primary tenant who moved in with me in an already tight spot with basically no savings, severe debt and collections, a really bad credit score, and no assets, her finances have only gotten worse over the past 9 months. So we'll be sharing a table to eat a meal, but we're not sharing the same food. I'll get home with something like a Wingstop buffet, just like a bunch of wings and sodas and fries. But my roommate's budget has been so low recently that she sometimes doesn't eat anything at all, or just like a fruit cup or maybe a bowl of ramen. And I'm thinking to myself, like, do I offer her a wing or like a slice of pizza or something? Like, when you're sharing a kitchen, you're gonna see what the other person is eating, and I sometimes question that I think she's going to bed like hungry at times because she just doesn't have any food. Meanwhile, I'll be on my 8th Chipotle bowl for the week with like extra steak and queso. I thought maybe I was overthinking it and she's fine, but I decided to offer her some food a couple times, and each time she says yes and the food's gone immediately. This actually happened with a few different people I've shared the home with, where it felt just so weird that I started either bringing extra food back home or just flat out buying groceries for everyone. Because it was just like, it was more uncomfortable to have starving people in my house than it is to see that money disappear, basically. Now, it's worth noting that I do take on, we can call them high-risk tenants, perhaps. People with very poor financial track records. So as a comparison, my friend Ethan rents 2 rooms out in his home, and okay, they might not be like rolling in cash, but they aren't completely helpless or inept to where they question if they can fill their gas tank this week or not. Like, yeah, they're on a budget, but they're not poor, basically. I keep getting poor roommates. After all, if this was a standard rental experience where you live under a different roof from your client, you wouldn't even know, you definitely wouldn't know what they're eating. You wouldn't know how they're doing financially, unless they blatantly tell you and maybe ask for help or ask for some leniency. Like, I was watching this video on YouTube of a landlord who owns a few rental units and he does like other business stuff, but the tenants stopped paying and they started to trash their property. So he was like, it's time for eviction day. He was gonna go meet the sheriff at the unit to watch them leave. So he hopped in his car, which was a Lamborghini. The wealth gap between these two parties were incredibly extreme, but it wasn't really a big deal because their personal lives aren't intertwined at all. They just have a contract, a business agreement for an actual rental unit. And while the discrepancy was never this extreme with my tenants, I do not have a Lamborghini, there's no denying that we are in different places in life. And I mean, okay, what's the number one piece of advice that I tend to hear more often than anything else if you just want to do well in life? It's be incredibly selective with the people you surround yourself with. Those you are physically closest to and spend the most time with will have the greatest impact on your life. And living with person after person who fails to better themselves, can't hold a job, and constantly asks for help, it might not be the way to go, honestly. This excludes scenarios including like, okay, very common room rental experience that tends to go well is if you're near a campus, like a university, and you rent out to college students who just need a cheap room while they get educated. Or there are those super frugal, like bachelors who might be saving up for a home or a big move or something, or they just work a lot and they want a cheap place. But let's be honest here. The majority of people looking for a rental that's under like $750 are probably not going to be the most fiscally responsible or capable, basically. The people living with me asking for extra time to pay me is nothing new, and after a year of this, I'm completely unfazed. And if it's someone that I do enjoy living with or appreciate as a tenant, when they do pay on time, I don't have a problem just giving them some leniency. Or let's say drop their rent by $50 this month. Like just say $50, give me what you can. Say because they called out sick from work, but they work at a place that doesn't have paid sick days. It's not like I'm required to help them, But I find not being a total hard ass is usually the best case scenario, at least for me.
And you went into it monthly for both?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I started them as 6-month leases, which is a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense if you're renting out a whole place, but that's a huge commitment to make. How many days is that? Like 180 days commitment to someone that I had never met before?
That was fast math. That was impressive for a guy who didn't graduate high school.
And so they just pay, and then they get 30 days of housing, and then they pay again 30 days.
And it's not exactly 30 days every time, as long as they pay me once a month.
Yeah, what's the longest they could go? Like, how much free housing would you give them? Assuming they told you they're going to pay it back. But how long can someone stay with you without paying?
It would depend on if I felt like I had a legitimate reason for it or not. Like if one of them lost his job and he's like, hey, I need a month to find a job, but I really want to stay here, I'd totally give them a month, and then I would probably reassess, and I'd be like, hey, how's it going? And if I really felt like they were actually looking and made progress but weren't able to get it yet, then I would maybe let them stay another month.
Okay. But would you ever just give them free? Like just have the month free?
I would do that probably after they like already had a job. Like let's say it took you 2 months to find a job. I'd be like, yeah, you can just start paying me rent now. If one of my roommates came to me too and like said they had a medical emergency that came up and then like they're really worried about, then I would probably give them a free month or something. Yeah,
I'm kind of having that right now because my best paying roommate has not paid in 2 weeks now. And
but do you feel like she's slacking?
I always think people could work a little harder, but I do think she's genuinely trying. I don't think she's trying to dupe me or getting free rent, but she has I have no idea when I'm gonna get money from her again. She's more broke today than she was when she moved in with me, which kind of sucks because her goal was 6 months.
I remember that.
I can move out of the country.
Yeah.
But now she's in a worse position. Her car is in a worse position. She has more debt, no savings, and now no job. She had a job when she moved in. So like, man, how long would I give her? Just because she's month to month now. So I started 6 months, that ended, it switched to month. So technically speaking, I could serve her a notice any time now. I don't plan on it, like, because she is a good roommate. So we totally get along and stuff. But I'm like, I don't know how long I'll give her. Because I just can't imagine asking her to leave if it feels like she's trying. But I'm like, does that mean that I would let her stay for 6 months for free? Like, I feel like I might.
I feel like you would. I wouldn't.
I think I would, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably be like, could you do all this stuff for me? Like, I'd probably just start giving her to-do lists and then accidentally hire her. I have a bad habit of hiring people by accident.
I could see a world in which I gave him like a month free if he fixed the dishwasher and installed like a microwave vent for me and a few other things.
Okay, so you're willing to barter.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope, but I like experimenting with it. Like, because I've gone into these weird roommate dynamics where there's no expectation of money. It all gets very complicated. The other issue is how much roommates cost you. So she cost me basically nothing. She's actually fine with the AC being off and she just opens her window. Which is like great because it saves a lot of money. But compared to my first pair of roommates, their gaming PCs were so powerful that the electric bill like actually spiked because they would play games 24/7, and it was substantial. Like it was.
That's funny.
And she'd be running 3D printers.
Wow.
Printing in my house. But yeah, there's 3D printers running. There's computers running.
It's all a balance. I think you don't want to give too much leeway for someone that just wants to see what they can get away with. But being too uncompromising, I think would just add unnecessary tension or even cause you to lose a tenant who otherwise may be offering more pros than cons. But there are also those aspects of renting out your rooms for cash that are simply unavoidable, being that my house feels much less like my house. Now, one problem I've yet to run into is a tenant who has too many guests. And it was a question that I was asking people up front, like, how much, like, do you like parties? Do you invite a lot of people over? What do you do for fun? How much of it's going to be at the house? Because basically I wanted to know how much they planned to utilize my home for other people. I basically would just tell them that, like, the vibe I'm going for is chill and comfortable. I was telling potential roommates that I want us to treat the home as a place to return back to after work, wind down, and get good sleep. The house is not to have fun or host events. And there were a few people that applied and did not like this, so they simply didn't move in, which was good up front. And the people that did move in agreed with this plan. That's not to say you can't have anyone over. Like, my roommates have had guests, and this is an example of something that's always been respected as like a boundary that I wanted, so that's cool. However, it can be sort of weird to get up to pee at like 2 a.m. and as I walk through the hallway, I like bump into some random dude I've never seen in my life. Like, he walks into my kitchen and grabs like a soda from the fridge after he hooked up with one of my tenants before just scurrying back into a closed bedroom down the hallway. Does it affect me? No, not really. I really don't care. Partly because I wouldn't want my roommates to complain when I have like a friend over or whatever. But I have to admit, it's a dynamic that I was not immediately used to. I've never just had random strangers kind of wander through my home throughout the night every so often. Now you have to remember that, yes, it is my home, but legally, and I would say morally, it's now our home. You're agreeing to share it with someone, and their name may not be on the deed, but they do have legal tenancy there. And going on 2 years of this, I'm still just not used to it. And I've lost a level of privacy that I miss more and more. I thought I'd get used to it, but no, I actually just miss it each day. Not only are you sharing the space, but you're inevitably sharing the things inside it. Oh, cool, the microwave is dirty, even though I haven't used it in like 2 weeks. Do I clean it myself real quick? Do I figure out who left the mess and ask them to? Or do I just let it get dirtier until someone else deals with it? A dirty microwave is so minor that it really wouldn't affect anything long term, but day to day, it's just these hey, that's funny, I wasn't even on purpose. Micro inconveniences, the microwave, haha. It's one of these micro inconveniences that build up and makes me go like, man, I miss having my house to myself right now, as I'm trying to cook some popcorn or whatever. In the case of the microwave, I just wipe it down myself. But another example is my roommate's cat's litter box. It takes like 30 seconds to scoop it, and sometimes her cat drops a bomb when she won't be home for a few hours. So I probably should just scoop it when it bothers me, and I did once. Stinky in the litter box, I go scoop it, whatever. I just didn't like doing it. I don't like scooping someone else's cat's litter box, so I honestly just ignore it now. I used to keep my house like squeaky clean, but ever since people started moving in, I've slacked pretty big time, simply because I'm not as enthusiastic to keep shared spaces looking as manicured compared to if they were just my own. And this is a good time to mention what I find to be an actual nightmare: when I have multiple roommates and they have issues with each other. Like when two tenants both had pet cats and they were fighting over whose food bowl goes where, or which cat attacked which. Eventually it devolved to them just throwing allegations of animal abuse back and forth. One more like mild example is one roommate having trouble sleeping without a TV on, like she has to have the TV on to go to bed, and the other roommate has trouble sleeping because the TV's too loud and they need silence. I'm not much of a fighter personally, because I can't be asked. Like, it kind of takes a lot to bother me because I just don't care, and I prefer just going with the flow. However, I cannot force another roommate to not care about what the other roommate is doing. I signed up to be a landlord, not a relationship mediator, so I don't even bother trying to mediate anymore. It used to be a thing I would do where I sit down with both roommates and we talk about our problems, but today, I have continued to have two people at a time. You're on your own. If you have an issue with someone else living in the house, either suck it up or leave. Or I don't know, call the police on them again. I don't care. The police can come however much they want. I don't have anything. I'm squeaky clean up in this John. Things will also just go missing or randomly appear. Not stealing, but just there was this plastic hook glued to my mantle for some reason. but it wasn't even it was stuck to the top of it, but it wasn't holding anything. You couldn't even hang something on a hook that's stuck flat. And I don't know who stuck it there or why. You'll just kind of as people come and go, you walk around your house and you're like, I wonder who did this thing in here. That's kind of weird. Someone always leaves the front door unlocked, but I don't know who or how to get them to stop, because every time I remind everyone to please lock the door when they leave, they just don't. I also have a septic tank, which is notoriously sensitive to certain things like feminine products or wet wipes. All these people have moved in and out of the house, and then they have guests come in and out of the house. And it's not like they're all saying, oh, just a quick reminder, we're on a septic tank, so please don't flush trash down the toilet. I got basically so anxious about what's been going in the septic that I decided to get it pumped. And luckily it was fine, but it was $350. So it's just, you don't really know what's going on the inner workings of your house when there's randos inside. And I'm not the perfect roommate either. My personal toxic trait is leaving my laundry in the washing machine for 2 days because I forget. And then other roommates have to take out my soggy underwear to wash their own underwear in the washing machine. And this video is focused on the day-to-day reality of sharing your home, and it's nothing many of you are new to if you've had any form of roommate, like a dorm mate or even a husband or wife or siblings even. And while I'm grateful I get to be the homeowner in these scenarios, but I do sometimes envy a roommate who can just up and go because they don't feel like being here anymore. I can't just move out of my own house at the end of the month. If I have issues with a tenant, I have to see them through until there's a resolution. But it's time that we move on to the pros. Money. That's it, pretty much. Or hanging out with friends, like a bunch, in the case that you do give rooms to people you enjoy being around. My dynamic right now, I have 2 rooms I give to people. 1 goes to a friend and 1 goes to a stranger. Now, rental income is cool. I like it. I wouldn't say it's easy money, but I also wouldn't say it's that hard either. Like, let's look at Turo. That's hard money. I don't know if it's worth all that effort. Or look at YouTube. YouTube's not easy, but man, you can really leverage it. But with renting out rooms, it's kind of like either everything is going perfectly all right and you get money deposited, but then occasionally something will go drastically wrong and it sucks up days or weeks of your life like a non-paying tenant. The other pro is that it's a source of income that can be earned at the same time as other things. Now, I wouldn't call it passive income. What I like to think about is like layering income, where I can do things that are making money while I do other things, and then I kind of like go in this cycle and focus on one at a time. Like, let's think about other streams of revenue I've made recently. I can't Uber passengers at the same time I deliver Amazon packages. I have to do one or the other, finish that, and then do the next one. I also can't produce YouTube videos while live streaming. I have to do one after the other. But when I can layer my streams of income as things that can be multitasked, that's when I see my money go up the most. So this is why I do like doing stuff like Turo, where I rent out cars. Because yes, I have to clean and deliver and talk to customers, but it's done in bursts of time that can be dispersed throughout my day or throughout my week in between other work. What I bring to the table that creates value for the customer doesn't require my hands-on work in real time. They receive value in the form of driving my car around themselves. And renting the home is very similar in this way. They receive value in the form of simply having exclusive access to a private bedroom in my house 24 hours a day for a certain period of time. That's like the service that I'm offering. So as long as things are going smoothly, as long as the house works, and as long as the roommate's not freaking crashing out, it takes very little input for me to keep it going. And again, compare this to Uber. Like, I'm not making money while I'm not Ubering. I'm not making money while I'm not delivering packages to people's doors. You have to be present to make that money. Although I will say, sometimes when you're Ubering, people will forget to tip, and then you drop them off, and then they don't open the Uber app for like 5 months, and then they're like, oh, I never tipped my last driver, and it still lets them tip. So like, I actually was getting tips from Uber like 3 months after I quit, which was kind of funny. So anyway, not related. I guess Uber is passive income though. And so yeah, when I did rent out rooms, I wasn't just like sitting there waiting for $700 to deposit. I was doing other stuff. I was producing videos, delivering for Amazon, doing Turo. But if you break it down financially, I was making an additional $24 a day from my empty bedroom. So this is cool. This is genuinely the cool part of it. It's kind of the only cool part. And then it would involve bursts of my labor throughout the months. So I can keep the home in working order, look for a new tenant if someone leaves, and sometimes fight them tooth and nail for rent money if they're not paying. So in short, I can't say I regret renting out rooms in my home. Ignoring the money side, the experiences were pretty incredible, actually. I got to go through some pretty wacky stuff, which translated into really fun stories that I get to share, both with people I meet and on YouTube. But like, if I have a first impression with someone and I sit down and they're like, hey, what's your name? And I'm like, hi, I'm Alex. What's your name? And they're like, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I can just pick from a list. I basically roll a dice and I'm like, should I tell them about YouTube? Should I tell them about rentals? Should I tell them about Flex? And if I land on rentals, they're like, oh, how does that go? And I'm like, well, and then I have like a great story to tell them. So it's fun. I like story collecting. And if I don't feel like telling the story, I just link them my channel. And even if it took more time and energy and labor than I anticipated, I did make money in the process, which greatly contributed to where I am today financially, which is being comfortable again. I'm not like riding on $10 in my checking account. However, I am so excited when the day comes that my house will become entirely mine again. Like, just making this video, I get that jolt of excitement in my stomach when I think about coming home to a house with nobody in it except the guests I choose to share it with on any given day. In the future, I'm going to look back on this positively. However, I will not be like, Oh man, I missed that so much. Maybe I should do it again. When my last roommate walks out this door and I change the locks for the last time, I'm going to celebrate so hard and never look back. But wait, what if I go broke again and renting out rooms looks to be the way out? Will I do it again? No, I cannot do it. I know I'm saying this while there's still people in my house, but I can't. Even if I was on the brink of selling my house, based on how I feel in this very moment, I would rather grind out as many side hustles or liquidate as many of my belongings or sell as many stocks or take out as many loans as I can before I rent a bedroom out for rental income again. Even renting out the whole thing and living in my car would be preferred. Like van lifing and making rental income sounds more appealing than living in my bare attic again with weird strangers downstairs. However, I will mention I'm still more than happy to let friends move in for certain periods of time. So even like people from Discord, people I know personally, I'm still totally up for that, depending on the situation and how well I know the person, because I do have almost exclusively fond things to say about those memories, which were very fun and I'd be happy to do more of. The difference is I don't live with friends with the primary intention of earning rental income, and there's usually an end date in sight of like, oh, I'm going to come for the summer, or I'm going to come for 6 months or whatever. It's more about being collaborative and just hanging out, like with literally just living together for fun. I'm really glad I'm not the person who has to hop room to room that I find on Craigslist, but I'll be even more glad when I'm not the person offering those rooms either. Like right now, I'm daydreaming about the house having total silence when I want it to be quiet, and inviting a friend over without someone third wheeling what we're up to, and not running out of clean cups because nobody's run the dishwasher yet, and walking to the bathroom with my willy out, and leaving my clothes in the washing machine for as long as my little heart desires. So, question of the day, should you rent out your house to strangers? Ethan says it depends on how much you're willing to compromise, but personally, no, I just say no. don't. Unless, however, you're gravitated to unusual social adventures, you also want to collect some life experiences and maybe get to tell some interesting stories of your own, or if you just have an immunity to awkward situations. I'm sure many of you could be better landlords than I am, but it's just whether it's something you wish to explore or not. So I don't want to tell you not to do it, but I feel like most people would rather not. I feel like that's probably the best bet, is like just make money some other way, but I don't know, do it if you want. If you do, you should make videos about it and then send them to me because I want to hear your stories. If I could go back, the biggest change I'd make is to ensure every lease is month to month. None of these like crazy 6 to 12 month leases. And I do see a future where I still rent out properties I do not live in, let's say a yearly lease on a second home or a short-term vacation rentals or something. We'll see what happens, and as you know, I'm going to bring you along for it, no matter what it may be. So, yeah, what are your experiences? Have you rented a room from a homeowner, or have you been the homeowner yourself? Or even just a regular roommate dynamic, like in a dorm room. I really like reading your own stories in the comments, no matter how long or short they may be. I've got a bunch of other roommate and landlord related videos, so I'll link some below if you want to indulge in some more stories. But that'll be it. I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.